I Am Legend is a 2007 post-apocalyptic thriller directed by Francis Lawrence, set in a desolate New York City. Robert Neville, played by Will Smith, is the only human left alive after what was supposed to be the cure for cancer wiped out almost the entire population of Earth. Despite years of failure, Neville is determined to find a cure for this virus, referred to as the Krippin Virus, but has much more on his plate as he's not the only one left in the city. As the sun goes down, deadly mutants known as Darkseekers infest the streets, but these aren't your typical movie zombies. These infected are still very much living and can execute intricate plans and work as a pack, as Neville finds out later in the film. The virus has also seemingly gifted them with extreme strength, speed and agility, giving them the upper hand over a regular human when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, forcing Neville to act with extreme caution around the city and only venture out in the daytime, as the infected are burnt when they're exposed to the sunlight. This is a nod to the novel written by Richard Matheson, where the infected are more like vampires. In this film, they're kind of portrayed as a zombie-vampire hybrid. The thing I love most about this film is its solemn tone. Everything from the score to the portrayal of a bleak and overgrown New York are haunting, to say the least. I find myself appreciating films that have minimal comedy and are able to maintain a serious and dark tone throughout the entire runtime. A recent example being Joker, and I Am Legend certainly falls into that category. So I first watched this film when I was probably a bit too young, and it's safe to say that I was terrified. However, I can still watch this film now and it still scares the shit out of me. This is a genuinely scary film, from the hair-raising scenes like when Neville has to creep through an old, dark building after his dog Samantha runs off, only for him to stumble upon a pack of infected, to moments that are so intense they'll have you clenching your butt cheeks. Like the moment when Robert is trying to crawl away from a group of infected, and they're infected hounds before the sun sets. Throughout the film, Robert has numerous encounters with the Alpha Darkseeker, the first of which being the scene where Robert captures the alpha female Darkseeker as he wants to conduct tests on her and trial a cure for the Krippin Virus. Aside from being a tense and scary viewing experience, I Am Legend has really emotional moments too. We get flashbacks of Robert's past scattered throughout the film, leading to the tragic death of his wife and daughter as their helicopter crashes in an attempt to evacuate the chaotic city. But by far the most upsetting scene in the film is the death of Robert's loyal companion Samantha, who fought off a pack of infected hounds trying to protect an injured Robert. But I'm not going to go into that because it's too sad. After the loss of his best friend, Robert goes on a revenge-fueled rampage, crashing his car into a group of Darkseekers, trying to kill as many of them as possible. It's clear that he doesn't care about surviving anymore, and he just wants to go out taking as many infected monsters as he can with him. Robert is inches from death until a blinding light comes from seemingly nowhere. We're then introduced to two new characters, and the first humans Robert has interacted with in years, Anna and Ethan. After believing he was the only one left after all these years, and putting countless radio broadcasts out with no response, Neville is still in denial about there being other survivors out there. The film repeatedly hints at Robert slowly losing his mind as the story progresses, and one of my favourite subtle moments is when he finds a mannequin that's usually in the video store, out in the open. If you really look closely, you can see the mannequin, who Robert named Fred, turn his head. This can either be interpreted as a really creepy Easter egg, or a sign that the years of isolation have had such an effect on Robert that he's starting to hallucinate and genuinely thinks these mannequins are alive. The more commonly known ending for the film is where Robert and two other survivors are pushed back into his lab after a horde of infected invade his house as they attempt to take back the alpha female Darkseeker. Robert then has no other option and must heroically sacrifice himself, blowing up the entire horde with a frag grenade. So 15 years have passed since I Am Legend's release, and it's just recently been announced that Will Smith will be teaming up with Michael B. Jordan in an unexpected sequel. This instantly got me thinking about how they could approach this, and it also had me a bit confused seeing that Smith's character died at the end. Or did he? In my opinion, there are three possibilities for this sequel. Option 1 is that it's going to be a prequel and will show us the events leading up to the outbreak of Krippin Virus, which I personally think would be really interesting. If this was to be the case, perhaps Michael B. Jordan will be playing a younger version of Robert Neville. Option 2 is that it takes place after the events of the first film. They stick with a theatrical ending with Will Smith showing up in flashback scenes. And then there's option 3, which could be seen as somewhat controversial, is they retcon the theatrical ending and choose to go with the alternate ending. So if you weren't aware, the alternate ending is more in line with the book ending, where Robert realises that they just want the female Darkseeker back. So he confronts the horde, presenting her on an operating table. The Alpha picks her up, the infected leave, and they allow Robert to live. Neville then realises that he had been the boogeyman all along, kidnapping members of the infected group and conducting experiments on them, forgetting that they once were, and perhaps still are, human. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening to my random thoughts. Subscribe if you want to see more film explorations in the future and also news on upcoming films. Take care.